city is now at crossroads of whether or not the value of a healthy river is greater than both its cost and effort. Should Chicago be united in taking care of our resources for the benefit of recreationalists and wildlife, or should we try to maintain low taxes and help businesses prosper?
Before European settlement, the north branch of the Chicago River contained three small streams with headwaters near present-day Deerfield, Glencoe, and Winnetka. The stream flowed through upland, oak savannas, and maple forests, and through a wet prairie formed in the till plain of ancient Lake Chicago. The main stem of the river flowed east through wetlands and marshes into Lake Michigan. This mixture of wetland, marshes, and forests supported a large number of wildlife species and made the area an important factor in the fur trade, first by the Potawatomi, then by Africans and Europeans. The river also played a big role in Chicago's development as a major center of the lumber and meatpacking industries during the 19th century. Access to the Illinois and Michigan Canal and the Mississippi River system provided opportunities for trade and shipping throughout the Midwest. Meatpacking plants and the stockyards used the river as a drainage system. By the 1870s, the dumping of waste from industrial and commercial development led to signs of pollution and increased concern about the dangers the river posed to public health. Between 1889 and 1910, the Metropolitan Sanitary District of Greater Chicago completed two major engineering projects to direct the flow of the river into the Des Plaines River and divert wastes away from Lake Michigan.
Chicago is the only major city that doesn't disinfect its wastewater before pumping it back into the environment. In 1972, federal government instated the Clean Water Act that requires all major bodies of water proficient for safe activity in and on the river. In reality, the federal law is clear, and the city should be required to take steps to comply with it. As it is, Chicago has gotten off easy. Why? Because we don't want to spend the money. As a result, the river contains hundreds of times more bacteria than rivers in cities like Philadelphia and Minneapolis. So the question becomes, which do we favor more? Fish or finances? The Illinois EPA recommended disinfection after conducting a 5-year study to review existing and potential uses of the river. The study found more people than ever are using the river for recreation.
When I was kayaking in one of the Chicago River Day races, I didn't have any more water, so I took a drink from the river, and I got pretty sick a couple days.
Though cleaning up the river may present itself to become expensive over the years, many have thought it the most beneficial way to save the river from becoming a breeding ground for infectious bacteria. Officials have questioned whether the plea for disinfection is premature, since there hasn't been any reason to indicate that disinfection will stop whatever is making the people sick. But Illinois scientists, along with recreationalists, feel it is the best regardless.
They should clean the river as much as they can, because the wildlife needs as much of the river as they can get. We can't just keep polluting it because it's a dirty river. And I know it will cost a lot, but I do believe that investing in the future is investing in our kids as well and things like that.
So what do we owe the river for keeping us safe from floods and being our sewer for the past 30 years? We owe it about $1.94. That's about all it takes to eradicate any bacteria living inside it. Less than a CTA ride anywhere. The largest push is for the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District, an agency that is in charge of the maintenance of the Chicago's river and sewage, to upscale their disinfection on the sewage going into the Chicago River. A recreationalist describes the effluent going into the river.
It's either drainage water, or sometimes it's water that's from a shop or something.
Really?
But it's somewhat kept track of. It's not totally 100%. I mean, sometimes there's pipes that no one knows what's coming out of it.
The Environmental Protection Agency plays a key role in the maintenance of the Chicago River.
The Illinois EPA sets up standards and issues permits for the waterways themselves and then discharges that go into those permits. And then we monitor those discharges and make sure that they're complying with their permits.
Opposition towards disinfection comes from the cost and the question of whether it is necessary for such a large disinfection procedure to take place.
The current standards on the Chicago River are being kept 100%, and the water is perfectly suitable for barge traffic, commercial use, and minimal contact water activity. Chicago is a large city, and the river serves as an effective way to transport goods in the downtown area and throughout the rest of the city. By using barges and boats to haul the goods, we save a lot of energy and reduce the amount of trucks in the downtown area.
Uses and standards for most all those waterways are to protect uses such as navigation, recreation, not swimming, not intimate uses of the waterway like swimming.
If Chicago wanted to disinfect the effluent before it goes into the river, then Chicago is looking at spending anywhere from $25 million to $900 million in costs. Lowest estimate requires a household to contribute $2 a month for the next 20 years to fund the project. The city needs to consider how great of a priority disinfection is. Chicago is already under a tight budget, and the money used toward the river will ultimately be for the sake of fish and the small population of boaters on the river. While a clean river is nice to boast, the city may not be able to afford it.
Normally the wastewater is captured, sent through pipes to some very large wastewater treatment plants where the water is purified and then discharged in a clean state back into the waterways.
Also, the need to disinfect the water further is questionable. The Water Reclamation District of Greater Chicago points out that the waterways currently are naturally unsuitable for swimmers as is, and could potentially cause more problems since there aren't many safe entrances or exits along the river. The University of Illinois conducted a study on the health of people post-interaction with the Chicago River and concluded a little less than 4% of illness resulted from 3,500 cases. Water Reclamation District of Greater Chicago further claims that there really isn't any pressing need to protect the boaters and those involved with the river from the water. So why is there really any need to disinfect water that is perfectly fine?
Most of the time, the Chicago River is clean. There are times associated with storm events where it is dirty. And when I say clean or dirty, I mean either it meets the standards set up for it, or it doesn't meet the
Chicago River is filled with abundant natural wildlife that includes 70 different species of fish, 60 species of birds, significant reptile and amphibian populations, and mammals that take shelter on the river's edge. These organisms are an important part of the life in the river and help maintain the natural cycle. Yet even with the large amount of organisms found in the river, there still are many native populations that are absent in the river due to the inadequate conditions. Many biologists believe that to enhance ecological functions, it would be best advised to focus on creating environmental buffers that would contribute to stabilization. Wildlife would be greatly affected by any decision to make a change in the river. Whether it is cleaning it or any other procedure that may be taken, animals are largely affected by the temperature in the water. Therefore, if it is unnaturally cold, it has a negative impact, and if too warm, it would bring invasive species into the picture. Cleaning the water would be beneficial to all species because it is in the best interest to be able to keep the native species thriving in the Chicago River above anything else. One of the major effects of contaminated water on the residing organisms are the severe reproductive problems that cause lower and damaged sperm count, development of reproduction organs on the wrong gender, and skewed sex ratios. These are problems along with many other health issues animals develop because of contamination, and why we should help these animals thrive in their local environment. However, we must also consider any dramatic changes we make that can only worsen conditions in some cases. In the end, there is still a large debate of whether or not the river should be disinfected. It is already 95 to 98% clean, and it is proven that it will never be 100%. The cleaning of the river will only create a greater carbon emission, but at the same time help the wildlife and recreationalists who just want an enjoyable view.